Değerli izleyicilerimiz, İstanbul'da Bir Gün programımıza bugün de hoş geldiniz. Bugünkü konuğumuz yazar, şair, eleştirmen ve çevirmen Profesör Doktor Vladimir Martinovski. Bugünkü konuğumuz yazar, şair, eleştirmen ve çevirmen Profesör Doktor Vladimir Martinovski. Welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a big pleasure and honor.
It's our pleasure. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm very happy to be in Istanbul. It's always a place to visit. It's always a place full of spirit. And it's always good to be back here.
You like Istanbul? Istanbul likes you too.
I hope so. I really like it. I've been coming here since I was a kid, first with my parents. And I always like to visit and revisit Istanbul. I'm also very, very happy to be back.
You're here for Poetry Festival, but first time you came here with your parents.
Yes.
How old were you?
I think I was something like 6 or 7 years old, and I was amazed. That was maybe the first metropolis that I ever saw, such a giant city, and city over 2 continents, and it's a really unique place. I was amazed. I still remember the first impressions, and I always have these impressions, how many people are, so different people are moving around. It's such a dynamic and such a lovely city, and wherever I go in a big city, I always compare it with Istanbul. I have visited many metropolises, but for me this is the paradigm of metropolis.
So we can say Istanbul is very special for you.
Yes, it's a very special place. It's also special from the viewpoint of culture, because it's a city of culture. It has many layers. I like cities which are very ancient, and they have many layers. They have, you have a feeling that you are reading a giant book. And there are so many pages, and there are so many pictures, and there are so many different aspects of the city, and it's a big challenge to read this book, the huge book Istanbul.
So can we say also, whenever you come to Istanbul, you also read Istanbul?
Yeah, and I had a pleasure to come with my family 10 years ago with my children, with my 2 sons, and I also had the pleasure to show them what I really like most about the city, of course, and my wife as well. She was here many times before as well.
Your wife and sons?
Yes. But I remember that is maybe, including my first coming with my parents, maybe the most precious visit to Istanbul with my family, because we did so many things in just a couple of days, and we were even swimming with dolphins. We were having tour across Bosphorus and the Golden Horn, and we went to Topkapi. And it was really fun because they were just the kids. Now they are teenagers, 18 and 19, but they were just first and second grade at the elementary school. But they knew so many things about Topkapi, about the history of Istanbul, thanks to the telenovela of Suleiman the Great. They watched it with my mother, and they even know some things that I didn't know when we went to the Topkapi Palace. It was really interesting experience.
You learned something from them.
Yes. Yes.
What does Istanbul mean to you as a poet and writer? How do Macedonians view Istanbul in general?
Istanbul is connected also with Macedonian culture. I mean, it's a city palimpsest. It's related to many cultures all over the Mediterranean. It's a crossroad between the east and the west, and that's why I think I can give you the example of the 19th century poetry, the most important 19th century Macedonian poet, Konstantin Miladinov, who actually died in Istanbul. He wrote one very, very important poem. That poem has been written in Moscow. He was there for his studies, and he was longing for the south, for the Mediterranean light, for this scenery of the Mediterranean, and he is naming some cities very important. His, of course, his birthplace Struga, next to the Ohrid Lake, also Ohrid, but he's also naming Istanbul as a place that he wants to visit again, to come there again. And his brother as well died here, Dimitar Miladinov, and one of the most important Macedonian poets from the 20th century, Matej Matevski, was born here in Istanbul. And that's one of the reasons that I always like to revisit Istanbul. He's really a great poet. He is known all over the world, and he is one of the most important translators, literary translators from many languages, especially from Spanish, but also from many other languages. And he was a very good friend of mine. And when I come to Istanbul, I always think of Matej Matevski as well. And that's why, from this poetic point of view, Istanbul is a place for pilgrimage for me as well.
Mr. Martinovski, I'm wondering this. You have had various political problems with Greece in the recent past. Now you are an independent country. I'm talking about Macedonia. What are the main differences between Greek culture and Macedonian culture?
Talking about differences between cultures, I think in general, if we observe all this region of the Balkans, there are many common cultural values, or from the viewpoint of tradition, you can find many similarities, but of course you can find differences which are obvious and very important. Talking about comparing Macedonian culture with Greece culture, first we can start with the language. Macedonian language is a South Slavic language, so of course we do have some words coming from like every other language. For instance, we have many words coming from the Ottoman period, which are Turkish as well. So, but I don't see this as a problem. I see it as a common way to understand each other. I mean, even in modern Greek, you can find words coming from, and in every modern language you will find words coming from Latin or from English or from French or from other languages. And this interference between languages and culture is a positive process for me. So, talking about similarities, it's really nice when you face this fact that there are so many common aspects when we talk about music, rhythms, food, and this really basic things about life. All Balkan countries are sharing
common language.
Yes, the common. We can easily understand each other talking about some variation words. I can say merak, and everybody will understand me on Balkan. It's a Turkish word, but if I say it in Serbia or in Croatia or in Greece or wherever, even in Romania, they will all understand what I'm talking about.
Mr. Martinovski, how is literature and poetry in Macedonia now? What are the main channels that drive literature, magazines or festivals? Or is it the academy?
All of them, I would say. Starting from the magazines, there are some literary magazines with very long tradition. From the very beginning of the 50s of the previous century. There are a couple of magazines. They have such a long tradition, and I'm not even certain that your audience know about these magazines, but they have really big reputation in my country, and there are many new magazines going out, many e-magazines, portals about literature and culture. Some of them are even not only monolingual, they are bilingual also with, there are also some magazines edited by the Literary Association, by the Pen Center. The review of the Pen Center is very important because all news about Macedonian literary scene are published in English over there, and they go to all Pen Centers all over the world. And also there are some
in English language?
Only in English.
Only in English language.
Everything is translated. Talking about festivals, I would start with the Struga Poetry Festival, which is really very renowned, very old, one of the oldest poetry festival in the world, with the longest tradition, with a list of laureates, which is really amazing, starting from the 60s. And the major poetry national award is also connected to this festival, and it is also connected to Miladinov brothers. Talking about there are many new festivals as well. The Struga Poetry Festival is most important for the poetry scene because there is a constant dialogue between Macedonian poets and all international poets coming from all continents. The festivals dedicated to prose. There are a couple of new festivals. There is a European festival for prose. There are some other festivals made by young writers. The Skopje Poetry Festival was released last year, which is also very good because the capital didn't have a festival for poetry. And there are festivals by the Literary Association of Macedonia. Talking about the academia, it's really interesting because I teach at the University St. Cyril and Methodius, the oldest university, at the Faculty of Philology, Blaže Koneski. 2 years ago, we have edited, I was part of the editing team, we have edited a book dedicated to all writers coming from my faculty, and it's a huge volume, starting from one of the founders of the Macedonian contemporary literature, Blaže Koneski, up to very young and very important writers right now. And I would say finally that even though Macedonia is a small country, but for us culture and literature are very important, especially poetry, because it is related somehow to the musical tradition as well. It is related to the modernist movement from the 50s up to the postmodern poetry. And that's why I think that especially the Struga Poetry Evening is the major cultural event. It's one of the major cultural events in the country.
When you were with Yugoslavia, did you have an independent literary and intellectual environment as Macedonians? Does Macedonian literature have great independence, literary figures in history?
Well, starting from the process of standardization of the Macedonian language, it took part in the framework of Yugoslavia, of the Federation. Macedonian language was one of the official languages, and from the very beginning, we have our independent culture, but it was also connected to the cultures of different nationalities, ethnicities of the
language is Macedonian language.
Of course, in our republic, our education and all books were printed in Macedonian, and books translated from other South Slavic languages like Serbian or Serbo-Croatian or Slovenian, or everything was. But the literary scene or the cultural scene was very large. I mean. This period is also very important for the for the history of Macedonian contemporary culture and literature as well. As I was talking about the Struga Poetry Festival, it was established in the beginning of the 60s, and all important national institutions like the Academy of Art, like the university, everything was established after the Second World War. So I think that for us this period is also very important as well.
How is your relationship with Turkish literature? Who do you know from us?
Actually, Turkish literature is one of my favorite literatures concerning contemporary literature. Thanks to one anthology, actually, which was published maybe a couple of decades ago, made by Fakhri Ali. In that anthology, I had a chance to read, not only me, the Macedonian readership in general. We had a chance to read poems by 75 Turkish poets, and there was a new edition recently re-edited. But also the Turkish novelists are very popular in Macedonia. And because I teach comparative literature, one of the subjects that I teach are the relations between literature and painting and fine arts, plastic arts in general. That was my field of research, and it's still my field of research for the PhD program, but also nowadays. So I teach this subject, and I work with students on literary works from all over the world related to plastic arts. And we also work on the wonderful novel by Orhan Pamuk, My Name is Red, or the wonderful novel by Murat Gülsoy, The Week in Istanbul, related to Max Ernst. And the students are very curious. Thanks to these two novels, they are very curious to learn about contemporary Turkish literature, novel, but also art, music, and culture in general.
Your students are happy to know Turkish literature.
Yes,
yeah?
yes. And we also, in the framework of our department, in some different subjects, not only these subjects, we also have contact with Turkish authors. I'm very happy to share with your audience that also this year a laureate of the Macedonian Association Award given to a foreign poet is a Turkish poet this year. That is Mr. Adnan Ozer, who is a very known poet in Macedonia, who came to Struga Poetry Evenings. So this contacts and this dialogue between Macedonian and Turkish culture and poetry and literature is very important, and I'm really happy that I also hope that there will be new translations in Turkish authors translated into Macedonia, and also, of course, vice versa as well. I hope that anthologies of Macedonian poetry or short stories will be approachable for the Turkish readers as well.
I hope so.
Yes.
I would like to ask you the question which I ask to all my guests. If you had only one day in Istanbul, where would you like to wake up in the morning? Where would you like to have your breakfast? Where would you like to go to visit? If you have only just one day in Istanbul.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to imagine, but I can imagine, because I came only a day ago. So I can tell you about my day in Istanbul, or I can tell you about my ideal day in Istanbul. It's as I already told you, I have come many times to Istanbul, and what is really extraordinary about Istanbul is that you can discover something new every time you come here.
Every time you can discover.
I can even imagine
you can find
that
to discover
you
something.
can spend a lifetime here, and you will discover something new. It's such a huge and such a rich city. It's with many layers. And what I would definitely do in one day, do the same thing as I do. To watch the
Want to
Golden
interview
Horn.
with me?
Yes, why not? Why not? See the Golden Horn, watch the Bosphorus, watch Istanbul, the European Asian part, watch the wonderful palace of Topkapi, visit, of course, the Hagia Sophia, visit the Blue Mosque. I would definitely go to the street with instruments. That is, I would say that street is a paradise for me, because I always see new instruments coming from the traditional instruments from the rich Turkish tradition, but also international instruments.
Do you have street music in Macedonia?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, people are also playing around.
Nice.
And I would
Similar.
go to Taksim, I guess. I was there yesterday. So my last day, actually, I did all these things. So,
You did your ideal.
but I also saw some new streets. I really like the rhythm of Istanbul. I like this sound of seagulls. I like this sound of boats, of sirens of boats. I like, of course, the bazaar, the Kapalı Çarşı, and I like this feeling that there is always something new to discover. And I like the view from that viewpoint from Üsküdar to see the palace and the mosques. And I like Istanbul in the morning. But yesterday we were in that part watching the Golden Horn from there, and it was also very nice. I like to move around, actually, because you have a feeling that you are in a movie, that you are shooting a movie with your eyes. I mean,
And you are the actor of this movie. Yeah, feel like.
perhaps as well. But there are so many actors around us, and I like this about Istanbul. It's a really amazing city.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure for us to meet you.
Yes, the pleasure is mine. And
Thank
I'm
you.
very, very, very happy to have a chance to talk to you.
We are happy to. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Değerli izleyicilerimiz, bir programımızın daha sonuna geldik. Bugünkü konuğumuz yazar, şair, eleştirmen ve çevirmen Profesör Doktor Vladimir Martinovski'ydi. Bizi izleyen herkese teşekkür ediyoruz. Bir sonraki programda görüşünceye dek sağlıkla, sanatla, mutlulukla kalın. Hoşça kalın.